Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Happy Wednesday. Thank you very much for being here. It's Nielsen and Hustler, as always. The Lock Shop brought to you by friends at Coolbet Canada. Sign up for an account today. Use the bonus code LOCKSHOP, one word, 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit, up to $200. It's as simple as that. You can follow us on Twitter at LockShopBets. And if you're watching on the live stream, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you do not miss an episode, because we do have football to bet on again. Haas, how you doing, buddy?
We are back. We are so back in many ways, Dusty. When you think about it, we started the Lock Shop at the beginning of 2021. We got just into NFL playoffs, but we have not yet been able to make CFL wagers, and we have not had NFL regular season action, and our wait is just about over. Kickoff tomorrow night in the Canadian Football League is here in the Peg. Grey Cup rematch of 2019. And I think we've got 5 more Sundays, if I'm correct, without the National Football League. And then it is on, not for 16 weeks, but for 17 weeks of regular season action before the playoffs. So I cannot wait to dive in. It's almost like we've been waiting and waiting since we started this to really get into some regular weekly picks for football, the number one betting sport around. And that time has come, my friend. We've got games. Although, as we'll get into, it has been quite a struggle to try to get lines for week 1 in the Canadian Football League, considering, this has been, and Chris will talk about it when he joins us, but I think there's essentially been a bit of a staring contest throughout the books, and it is somewhat unprecedented, and we talked about it on your show this morning. I mean, you've had almost 2 years between games, no preseason, some iffy players for week number 1. I can't imagine a more difficult time to set lines. And I do understand that with the excitement about it all, books don't want to lay a bad number and get taken to the cleaners in game number 1 and week number 1 of the CFL season.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you get fired up. You're like, okay, it's officially game week. Let's give us the odds that we're looking for here. But Huss, I totally get it. Like, it frustrates me, but I get it. I mean, as a guy who's prepping to call the game on Saturday night between the Elks and the Red Blacks, I mean, it's extremely difficult to find any sort of information on these lineups right now. And look, it's a 1 week thing. Usually tracking down week 1 depth charts in the Canadian Football League is not the easiest thing to do. So trying to set the odds on it when there's going to be hundreds and thousands of dollars on the line, I can see why it would be extremely difficult, and you have to be patient about it.
Well, yeah. And then on top of it all, we don't even know who the hell's any good anymore. I mean, let's
it's true.
Week one betting. Like, I've gone back to my NFL seasons over the past few years, and it is not uncommon to take a beating in the first 2 or 3 weeks before you sort of, get a little bit more acclimatized to, okay, this team actually is really good. This was a mirage, and, you work through it. So from a book perspective, as opposed to a player, I mean, there's so much more on the line because you're playing against everybody. So it's fascinating. I mean, last night, Dusty, we were looking for these lines. They still weren't up. And I did the lines that I thought that we would see. You did yours, and I'll be honest, I'm quite surprised at a couple of the numbers, but in particular, the one that we're seeing, there's some numbers being released right now. Coolbet does have a money line bet right now for Hamilton and Winnipeg. I imagine we'll probably get legit numbers probably at some point over the next couple hours. But I mean, when we were putting down what I thought the line would be, I had Winnipeg as a 1.5 or 2 point favorite. I mean, they're playing at home. I realize on a neutral field, Hamilton, I think, would be a slight favorite. You saw that indicated in the Grey Cup odds. Maybe it's the fact that people are freaked out that Andrew Harris probably won't play, and I know Willie Jefferson ended up on the injury report, and maybe that made people a little more nervous. But I mean, for Hamilton to be laying 4 or 3.5 right now going into Winnipeg, I was really surprised about that. So, when I looked at these numbers and made the bets for this week, I mean, essentially, I was just comparing them to the numbers that I thought would come out that make sense. and positioned my bets as the biggest deltas between what I thought and what it came. And the Hamilton-Winnipeg game, I can totally see Hamilton coming and win this game. I mean, I think they are roster-wise right there with, well, probably the best team in the league. I mean, they were 15-3. It didn't go well in the Grey Cup, but they still return most of a pretty lethal team, as well as two quarterbacks that can get the job done. And Jeremiah Masoli will get that start. But I thought this would be closer to a pick over Bombers as a slight favorite with a 3-point home advantage. So with a 3.5 point spread in favor of the visitors, I'm going to make a bit of a homer pick here and just go with the line and think there's great value on the Bombers to either win this game or at least keep it within a field goal and get the W. So that was the one game for me that really stood out. And the other one, based on the numbers that we saw, I thought that Saskatchewan and Calgary would be touchdown favorites. Those are in and around 4 to 5 points. But Edmonton and Ottawa, I mean, you look at people in the know, I mean, they're saying that this Ottawa team could be horrible this season. And listen, I love Paul LaPolice and Matt Nichols. They were phenomenal members of the Bomber organization. But it's going to be a tough sled. And I'm quite high on Edmonton, the Elks. So the fact that this number is under a touchdown, I was kind of blown away, to be honest. If anything, I thought this would be closer to a double-digit number. And I realize that's hard to hang with so much uncertainty. But I do think that there's great value on Edmonton at 5. So I'm going to take the Champs at plus 3.5. Man, I've been waiting my whole life to be able to say that. And the Edmonton Elks at 5 points. I certainly like Edmonton by a touchdown. And listen, I would also suggest to people that if you like that Edmonton number, as soon as these get up, you might want to jump on that, because I would be very surprised if by the time we don't get to game time that we're not talking about a number that's in excess of a touchdown.
Yeah, I was, same sort of thing when we look at what we wanted to set here on our own. I did have Hamilton as a 3-point favorite in my opinion. I think it's nothing against the Bombers. I mean, the Harris injury obviously would concern me a little bit there, but the Ticats are just such a good team start to finish, like top to bottom, both sides of the ball. They're an absolutely phenomenal team. So, yeah, I thought the Ticats would be around a 3-point favorite. With that being said, I don't love that enough to take them in my 2 CFL picks this week. I'm with you on Edmonton. 100%. Like, the moment we saw this pop up, and Naylor kind of threw it out there early this morning, the moment I saw Edmonton at 5, I was like, okay, because I texted you, I said 8.5. You had them at like 9. So 100%, this thing's going to move. By the time kickoff happens Saturday night here in Edmonton, the late game, 7.5, 8. I mean, I think we could see the line move that much. And then the other one, I'm going to go with Sask here at home, minus 4.5 against the BC Lions. I think in that text I sent you, I had them at about a 6-point favorite. You said, about a touchdown favorite as well. So I see them right now at minus 4.5. And I like it. I don't know what to expect from the BC Lions. We know they're a little bit of a younger team. We know Michael Riley, when he's on, can be absolutely sensational. We haven't seen that a lot as of late. I mean, from anybody, but last time we saw Riley and last time we saw Fajardo was playing a heck of a lot better. So, I'm going to go Sask at home. Place is going to be packed. Minus 4.5 against a BC team that I'm just not too familiar with right now. I think Sask has some good pieces in place once again to be a pretty good team this year. Not as good as maybe the odds right now suggest overall in the Grey Cup futures, but I like Sask minus 4.5 at home. Elks at home minus 5. I'm going to be on a couple of home teams here.
Hey, not to trigger LTE in the Rider Nation, but the last time we saw Cody Fajardo, he was banging it off the iron in the West Final. Just thought I'd bring that up. I am very interested in Saskatchewan, though, because I think they'll be able to move the football. I still don't really get how Fajardo seems to be such a clear-cut favorite for MOP and passing yards. But I think a lot of that has to do with the Riders being such a popular team and having so many people want to bet on them. But those injuries that they had at the start of camp, the 4 guys going down with the Achilles in 10 minutes was like a cloud over that team going into training camp. And I really wonder what their defense is going to be like. Now, whether the BCO line and Mike Riley will be able to take advantage of that in week 1. The jury's out, and we'll find out this weekend. But again, I am with you. I sort of thought that number would be a little higher based on what we saw last year, the questions about BC and how they come back. And while we're at it, let's touch on this Toronto-Calgary game. I could have easily thrown the stamps on my ticket as well. And I know there is, and we've talked about this before. I mean, I'm on the stamps over the 7 wins for the season. I realize that they've lost some players, but they do that every season. And they always are one of the top teams of the Canadian Football League. I mean, was it last week or the week before when we were doing some win totals, went back? It's been 2007 since they weren't above 500. So, I mean, that's 7-7 is 500 right now. So to think that the Stamps won't get their 8th win, I think was a little bit much. And I know that there's some interest in Toronto as to, what this team is going to be like. They spent a ton of money. They overhauled the entire roster. They got Nick Arbuckle in. They also got our old pal, the Dinwizzle, Ryan Dinwiddie, as the head coach going into his debut. So, I mean, on the road, new team, new head coach, going against Dickinson and Bo Levi Mitchell on the road. I'm stunned that this number isn't closer to 7. So, to be honest, I think I'll probably be on Calgary as well. But to start it off, we're going to take the points with the Bombers at home. And I think the both of us and a lot of other people are going to be on that S-5 number if you can jump on it when it drops.
One more on the Canadian Football League, then we'll get into our partner Parlay here, and Chris Abbott's going to join us in a little bit. We'll talk about setting odds for week 1 of the Canadian Football League and how difficult it is for their guys. Huss, we saw the CFL announce a betting partner, a gambling partner. Obviously, you and I, with what we do, we've got our partner with Cool Bet. We're expecting the Elks and the Bombers and everybody to have a partner for their stadium as well somewhere along the way. Is CFL betting, do you think it blows up this year? Has it become much more popular? I know TSN is really pushing hard with TSN The Edge. They want us to talk about that a lot, and they're providing some really good content there as well. I feel like there's this urge for all of us to want CFL betting to blow up, and we can talk about it and we can bet it, and TSN Edge can promote it, and everybody in the league can do it. But do you think the fan, let's say the sports betting fan who maybe isn't a CFL fan, that's when this thing will really jump? Do you think that happens this year, or do you think it starts to grow this year?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it already has been, to be honest. I mean, the last few years, from my understanding is we've seen more and more money come in the CFL. And that's a big conversation we had, I think within league offices too, Dusty, about them moving the season up. I mean, I've long been a proponent of starting the season earlier, into the spring if possible, as opposed to, up until recently, it was in and around Canada Day. I mean, if you can get some more, just strictly from a fan's perspective, going to games in June as opposed to October and November, I think, you'll sell more tickets. But the other thing that I think is really key from a betting perspective is that, you go unchallenged in North America as the only football league playing at that time. Bombers Ticats is going to be on ESPN2 in the States. I mean, we've seen some of the numbers they get for football for some of these rinky-dink spring leagues and arena football right now. People in North America want to watch football and they want to bet it. And if the Canadian Football League can put themselves in a situation where they're playing more games before U.S. college football starts, before NFL Sundays, and certainly maybe most importantly, try and schedule against that. And we've seen that before with successful Thursday and Friday night games in the Canadian Football League. And I think it works well with the betting partner as well. I certainly do think you'll see that momentum. What's going to be interesting within our borders, and we'll ask Chris about this in a few minutes, is that, as these new rules get rolled out, and I'm not exactly sure where things are at. I mean, it has been passed. Does the Governor General have to sign it? Not entirely sure, but we will be at a point where more information will be available. Things are going to be different from province to province. How that gets rolled out, how they engage football fans to get involved is going to be interesting. But I think we're only going one way, and that is up. And as we talked about this going into the vote, honestly, I think the Canadian Football League, Dusty, maybe of all the leagues, has the most potential to really gain from everything going on right now, because it's more of an untapped market for the CFL. there's more and more people that now that they can bet on it will pay attention to it. And that's going to mean more eyeballs on the product. And that's going to mean more money in the pockets of all the teams in the Canadian Football League. And hopefully on us winning some bets here on the Lock Shop and betting CFL on a weekly basis.
Yeah, this first week, 2 games are actually on ESPN2. That Bombers game is, and then the Elks Red Blacks game Saturday night is on ESPN2 as well. And I think there's 4 or 5 games on ESPN2 in the month of August for the CFL. So
is that your ESPN debut?
Yeah, I think it will be. I don't know. I don't know if I had a game on there last year or not, but I know for sure I'll be on ESPN2 on Sunday. Odds are I'll get scooped up and be calling NFL games by next season. I mean, it's a wild and crazy train, Huss. We'll see. That's exciting. That's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's a game. The last thing we want, like I think this Bombers Ticats game is going to be great. The last thing you want is a blowout on Saturday night when you're going to get some eyes south of the border there for the league in general. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
I just can't wait till the play-by-play guy loses his mind on the overhitting late in the fourth quarter and the Elks covering that 5-point spread.
I know they want us to mix in a little bit of that talk, but I don't know if they're ready for me in the booth like this. My God, how in the hell did they cover the over? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go over. Anyway.
Hey, that's the way that it's all going. There's nothing better than when Al Michaels at the end of a Monday Night Football game that's, it's 41-3, but the over-under is at 48, and there's a, kick return comeback that says, well, there are some people that are going to be quite excited about that last play, exactly what he's talking about. It's all changing, and you're going to be, you'll be at the forefront of all of that. To be honest, and this is not a shot at TSN or any of the other places that are trying to get more into the gambling space, because they do a good job of using some of their people that have a great platform and they're recognizable. But they got to get people that know what they're talking about. I mean, that is the thing. I mean, I think back to when they were getting into the daily fantasy and, last year and on Inside Hockey, and would be getting some of the guys that had quite obviously were unfamiliar with like building a DraftKings lineup or something like that going through it. But I think that's all improving as we go forward. And I know our friends at TSN over in Toronto, Buddy Aaron Korolnek, and some of the guys are sharp minds all over it with the program they do in the radio, and hopefully we'll see more of that on the airwaves and involved with CFL broadcasts as well.
All right, let's move into the partner parlay because we're going to bring Chris Abbott in right after that. I'll start it. I'm on the Dodgers tonight. Scherzer's debut, -213. Scherzer so far this year had limited run support. That's not going to be the case. I think the Dodgers were shut out yesterday, but they had 21 runs in their 2 games prior to that. They averaged 5 runs at home per game this season. Now Scherzer's going to actually get that run support. It's his debut. I'll be on the Dodgers tonight, -213. I want to watch that game. I like to bet on a few things that I'm going to watch. I know I'm going to watch. So, yeah, Dodgers -213.
Well, there's no way I wasn't laying it on our Canadian women. Shout out to that team. They are incredible. I've been very emotionally invested in this. I am on full Tokyo time now from watching these games the last few weeks. And to beat the United States the way they did was the greatest soccer victory in Canadian history. I don't think there's any doubt. And hopefully tomorrow we'll one-up that. The Swedes are another big favorite. If you were on Canada last week, if you had the stones to bet them in regulation, you were getting +450. I was on them with the old Chris Abbott to qualify bet, which was +220, which was fantastic. And to be honest, the numbers are quite similar with Sweden being a significant favorite over Canada. So looking at this one, I didn't mind the draw, but for our partner parlay, we can get -105 for Canada at +1, which would mean a regulation win or a draw. And, defensively, they've been phenomenal. Steph Labbe is maybe the biggest reason why our Canadian women are in this gold medal game. And it just seems like there's something special going on with this squad. So, considering the way they have been able to eliminate scoring chances, even against a, incredible team like the United States, I like this one to be close. Wouldn't at all be surprised to see it go to extra time. And obviously it'll be a fun bet to make because we're all pulling for our Canadian women. So give me Canada +1 in the women's final, meaning a regulation win for Canada or a draw we'll cash the bet.
All right. And overall, the parlay is going to pay plus 396. Chris Abbott, the third leg of this bad boy, he's on his laptop, in his car, post eyebrow wax, I believe. Let's find out. Abbott, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, well, you're outing me there. Yeah, I just got my eyebrows done. I need to
You look amazing.
Need to shave my face, but yeah, I'm still. I was, as you guys know, I've been on the move a lot. I was in Montreal last weekend, so I'm just trying to get my life in order. To be completely honest, and my eyebrows were crawling out over my eyeglasses, so I had to do something about that.
I've got to ask you. I had never heard of that before. How is the process? Is it painful? Is it something you do often? What's going on?
You've never heard of somebody getting their eyebrows waxed?
Well, not men.
Oh, well.
No, I'm just joking. I guess
You gotta look
Just
after
the way you
yourself.
said that was hilarious.
Wait until you find out that I get like facial treatments at the spa and massages too. Like, you got to look after yourself, Hus.
I knew there was a reason why you always come in looking $1 million US tax free.
Does it hurt? Does it hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. If just right now, pull a couple of your eyebrows out. It doesn't hurt. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Not like the back waxing. I was imagining a big thing of tape going like, all right. Rip it off.
Like, I've had the back done before, and I won't do that again. That is like every bit of what they make it out to be in the movies. Like, it really hurts. So I'll never get that done again. But yeah, the eyebrows aren't bad at all. But yeah, you gotta, like, Dusty, you're on TV, man. Like, so this started when I was doing broadcasting. And I was just like, I don't have a lot to work with up here. Like, you know, I gotta make this look as good as possible. So if I could get my eyebrows at least taken care of, I'd do that when I was going on camera.
Hey, I know that. Well, here, do we want to do the partner parlay first? Because we got questions about the CFL and all that. So yeah, I won't derail this right now. Let's get to it.
I'm my contribution to the partner parlay is over 5 in the first 5 innings tonight. Steven Matz and JC Maya Mejia. I don't know this guy. All I know is that he's gotten out of the 5th inning once in July, and he's given up 4 or 5 runs each time out. And that's before you factor in the fact that Steven Matz has gotten tattooed a little bit lately as well. The ball seems to be flying around at Rogers Center, which is behind me. If you could see out my rear view, you'd see the CN Tower a little bit in the east end of the city right now. But I'm actually really excited, guys. I'm going after tonight. I'm not going, but I'm going to the next 5 Jays games after that. The last one against Cleveland, and then the whole series against Boston. So I'm absolutely jacked for that. But yeah, so both these pitchers are giving up a ton. The Jays are scoring a ton. It seems like 5 runs in the first 5 innings is all 2 on the table in this one tonight.
Have you been to the ballpark yet since the Jays have been back? It certainly looked like an amazing weekend. We had a big party, actually. Big party, as big as you could have right now during the current restrictions on Friday for it. And I saw our buddy JD was at the game last night. Feinberg was at the game on Friday. Seems like people are really fired up to get back in. How many people are they letting in right now? About 15K?
15,000. I think I heard Dan Shulman say in one of the broadcasts that it was probably 14 and change, because the 15 has to account for all the staff and all the team personnel and things like that. So
unlike a Habs playoff game.
Yeah, I haven't been there because I was in Montreal, but it looks like it's more than 15. Like, it looks like a regular season Jays game there, the games I've seen. So I'm really looking forward to going. Obviously, the Red Sox are in town this weekend. The Jays have beefed up their bullpen. They added Jose Barrios. The lineup is clicking. George Springer's back in the leadoff spot. I mean, Kevin Biggio has been squeezed out of the top 9. Like, that's something, guys. So, like, I don't know. Wouldn't call them a World Series team, but I think they're like 22 to 1 right now. Might be worth a couple of shekels anyway, just to see.
That's a sprinkle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
no doubt about it.
Right there.
Chris, well, let's get into it with the Canadian Football League here, because like I was saying earlier, I said, and I know it's not going to be this way. We're going to get these games this week. We're going to have an opportunity to really start to dive into it. But on Monday, I was like frustrated because I was like, damn it, there's no lines yet. And then I was like, as I start prepping for this game I'm calling Saturday night, I'm like, it's not easy. Like, we've got no information on these teams for the last 20 months. We don't know what they're going to look like. When was the last time you saw something like this where it's like a showdown between books to try to figure out who the hell's going to start the ball here in the Canadian Football League?
Well, yeah, I do feel like there's a couple things at play. I think the Olympics has taken a lot of resources at a lot of books, but I also feel like it's exactly what you said. These teams haven't played since late 2019. A lot of things have changed. There's no preseason. Honestly, nobody knows anything right now. So somebody at some point had to hang a line, and it started to come out a little bit this morning. So that's good. I thought it was a little bit odd that, we're a day before opening game. I thought we would have had it by sometime last week, to be completely honest with you. But, we're just as guilty. Our bookmakers were waiting around to see what was happening. And nobody, in fairness, nobody felt confident in making these lines. And I would suspect that all of these lines will move significantly before each individual game starts. I think somebody just had to put something up and see where it went. And I think the first few weeks of the CFL season, there's probably going to be money to be made.
Well, and you know what? It's a great topic to speak with people that are maybe getting into football betting, in that I've always found and talked to some smart people before they even get the lines, they handicap themselves, figure out where they think the lines will be, and then compare those to the lines that come out. And where you see the biggest difference is usually where you'll want to go make your bets. And we were going back and forth while we were waiting. I said, well, let's do our own lines and then let's see where we're at. And the two picks that I made were the ones that had the biggest delta from what actually came out and what we were. I mean, I think both of us and most people were thinking a much bigger number on the Elks against the Red Blacks that are thought to be the weakest team going into the season. And I have to tell you, I mean, I thought that this game between the Bombers, Chris, and the Ticats, would maybe be Winnipeg -1, 1.5, 2, but the Bombers would be favorite with those 3 points for home field in a packed stadium, raising the Grey Cup banner. And obviously people really thinking that the Hamilton Tiger Cats are the team right now, because we've seen 3.5 and 4 already right now. And that was sort of why I jumped on the Bombers, just thinking there was value right now. But to your point, when these numbers do come out, I think that we will see a movement right now. But if people are ready with what they think the games are, as uncertain as it is, I always tell people, take it easy in week 1, NFL as well. But as I said, we will see a lot of that. But I think to put yourself in the best betting position, figure it out yourself, compare it to the lines that come up, and then make your decisions from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I say the same thing too. Take it easy in week 1. I say don't bet spring training baseball. I bet all those things. I just the advice is that you shouldn't do it, but when you love to be in the game, then you're in the game. Yeah, I mean, I to be completely honest, I don't know what to expect in the CFL season. I know where I was when the season ended 2 years ago, but I don't what do the BC Lions look like right now? What does Ottawa look like right now? I don't know. I think we know Hamilton will be good. I think we know Winnipeg will be good. Edmonton will be competitive. Calgary's always there. What do the Argos look like? I live in Toronto. I haven't heard a peep. They could. Do they play at home this week? I have no idea. I don't think they do. But there's no talk about the Argos. Who's their quarterback? I don't know.
Yeah,
they've got
Nick
2.
Arbuckle.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, before I let you go, do you know? Did you guys take a hit on DeGrasse this morning? Do you know if that was good for you guys or bad for you guys or what?
I'm sure it would have been bad because nobody's betting it. Nobody is not betting him to win. So I haven't seen the damage yet. But listen, we're happy to pay out Andre DeGrasse winning a gold medal. That is awesome.
Yeah.
What was it, plus 350, I think, or 250?
Yeah, it was a good number. It was a good number. So it was nice to see.
And good for him. And one last thing, I heard you guys talking about the the betting regulation and things like that and where it sits. All I know on that is that Ontario is looking to launch their regulation by December 1st. When it comes to the other provinces, I haven't heard a peep. So I think everyone's kind of watching to see what happens in Ontario. I think some provinces are going to go it alone and not open up regulation and competition. Now, they will still offer single game, but it'll be through the Sports Select or Proline or whatever.
I just caution people when that time comes to make sure you're getting fair prices. We have seen in the United States when governments have gone it alone, both sides of a spread would be like minus 130, and that's just not fair to the player. So
Well,
I hope and I presume there will be like player advocate groups that come out of this, especially for the monopoly run provinces and territories. And then I think competition in Ontario and wherever else, it's going to be fantastic for the player.
Well, the competition is going to end up being what makes it worthwhile for all of the sports bettors and what should make it better. And you're exactly right. I mean, if you're like, put it this way, I'm here in Manitoba. I mean, if it is done just under the house and they'll say, okay, great, the Bombers are going up and, the Bombers are minus 109 or 108 on CoolBet and it's minus 130 somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it. It might be easier to go and do it, but I mean, from a betting perspective, it makes absolutely no sense. So I think the challenge is, and I think there's pressure on them to be competitive, to behave like they are in a competitive market, because I can tell you as someone that has lived in a province that has not had competition, it has been anything but competitive. And that's a big reason why we've had such a great turnout of so many people that are involved with our shows coming and now are cool bettors on the reg. Hey, one more thing. Dusty asked me this earlier. I'm interested in your perspective on it, Chris. We're getting into this new era where single game wagering is going to be growing in a big, big way. How big do you think this will be for the Canadian Football League? And, the fact that it is the only football league playing at this point, and, presumably next year, it'll start a couple months earlier with a couple months all to themselves in the summer months before college football and the NFL gets going in the States. How big do you think is this going to be for the CFL and their teams?
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge. I mean, betting on the CFL has been around, but yeah, maybe it probably hasn't been considered as mainstream. There's a reason that the United States has always wanted a spring league and a summer league, right? People want to bet on football. And I think it would be, I heard you guys talking about the ESPN exposure. I think that's amazing because Americans are going to want to bet on the CFL. So the CFL needs to, in my opinion right now, make sure it's very fan friendly, make sure it's forthcoming with information, all the things we talk about, why the NHL needs to be, more transparent when it comes to betting. So I think they need to put it at the forefront. I think it needs to be, as you mentioned, Dusty, part of the broadcast. It needs to be, on the website and the game previews. You need to talk about spreads and totals and things like that to just get the information out there, educate people that are going to want to bet on the CFL. And I think a lot of that comes into play in the United States as well. And, if Americans get behind it, who knows what might happen, right? You might see them try another expansion into the USA, or, we saw the XFL talk and all that. And of course, there's pros and cons to both of those. So, I think it's going to be absolutely massive. I think, again, it's like anything. It's like I always equate it back to the marijuana thing in Canada, just because it's a recently legalized situation where, it went on before, but maybe more in the shadows. And now it's nothing to walk down the street, smell weed, and not think twice about it, right? So I think that's kind of where we're coming at with the gambling thing. It's probably not as taboo as drugs, but it just hasn't been as mainstream. And I think that's something that we'll see. And I think, there was a lot of fear amongst some people when cannabis was legalized in Canada, and I don't think it's created any issues at all. It's only helped the culture.
I can confirm the cities are all still standing after weed was legalized. There's not been unrest in the streets. We're doing okay.
It's all right.
Maybe even a little more mellow.
That's a good point. Chris, thank you very much for joining us from your car in downtown Toronto, buddy. We'll catch up again next week.
All right, guys. Talk soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
There you go. That's Chris Abbott. You know what? Considering he was just in downtown Toronto, pretty good connection from the laptop in the car, Huss. That wasn't bad.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how he did that from a laptop. Like, was he like in a Starbucks parking lot and got the Wi-Fi from there? I just
or connected to his phone for the Wi-Fi. Maybe he's got one of those sticks that get you internet wherever. Those magical sticks. Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to text him after. You're right. How did he do that on his laptop?
he did a good job, and it looked great. Hey, I know we're gonna get to these golf picks right now. Quick shout out. Did you watch much of the Olympic golf?
I didn't have a chance to watch much of it because I was back at my parents' place and they're not golf fans.
Well, I mean, I sweated out the Hideki run big time. and it was even better because as we talked about last week, I got in on Matsuyama at 18, and then DeChambeau and Rom dropped out and the numbers just cratered. So he was at 13, then he went off at 12 and was right there. But got to give it up to Xander Schauffele. This is a guy that he really focused on this event and wanted to peak in time for this event. And it's been really cool seeing how proud he's been to have that gold medal. I saw him send a text over to Danielle Kang, showing it off and saying, "You're next." He's had so many close calls and has been so good in so many of these majors. To have him get that first real breakthrough win on the world stage was awesome. And I have to say, speaking with big golf guys in the U.S., shout out to all of the Canadian broadcasters. I know the games that the golf was mainly on, I guess, TSN2. I was watching it, but the coverage was absolutely phenomenal. And we're pretty lucky considering what was and what wasn't available to some of our friends south of the border, even with their guy Xander winning the gold medal. So the Olympic golf was awesome. Nice start last night for the women, although tough for our Canadian women. Brooke Henderson couldn't sink a putt, unfortunately, at the end of the round, and I think she finished 3 over right now. But it's our boy CT Pan showed he was third last after the first round and went off, ended up winning the 7-man playoff. From a betting standpoint, Dusty, my biggest regret of the Olympic golf was that it happened in the middle of the night and they weren't able to get live odds up for that 7-man playoff because it would have been incredible. I mean, you had McIlroy, you had Morikawa, CT Pan in there. I mean, it would have been cool. If that was a regular tour event that ended up and went to a 7-hole playoff, there would have been a ton of money going in on it. But it's interesting bringing us to the FedEx St. Jude Classic starting tomorrow as to how good of a field this is right now. I mean, usually at the
post-Olympics, you're right.
I'm stunned. And it's not even the guys that are in, it's the guys that played in the Olympics that are in this tournament. I mean, Brooks wasn't there. Morikawa was, Schauffele was, Justin Thomas was, Rory McIlroy was, Victor Hovland was. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys that literally finished up, got on a plane from Tokyo, and are now in Memphis, Tennessee, teeing it up again. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on guys that played in the Olympics for this weekend? I mean, do you think the natural thought would be to fade these guys? They just traveled all the way across the world after an event like that. So I sort of stayed away from those guys, but it wouldn't be surprised me at all to see a guy like McIlroy, who really seemed to be inspired from playing in the Olympics and being part of that, to play even better coming up this week.
Sure, seems like a quick turnaround, though. Quick turnaround, man. Much
like the CFL week 1, there's a lot of things that we're unsure of going into this week on the PGA Tour.
Who do you like, though? You like Brooks at the top? Who else you like?
I love Brooks. I love Brooks at the top. And again, I would love a bit better of a number, but Brooks is finally being recognized as a guy that can go out and win every time he gets on the course. He's a former winner of this tournament. And I do think it's important to note, this event, we've seen, DeChambeau, we've seen Justin Thomas win it twice. We've seen Brooks Koepka, I believe Hideki Matsuyama. This doesn't seem to be the tournament that, the Jim Herman or Stuart Sink is sneaking in and winning, as we've seen at times recently on the PGA Tour. This is a big boy golf course. It is a long golf course as well. Driving accuracy, driving distance, and ball striking is very important. We've seen a number of guys win this tournament that actually haven't putted very well, which goes to show that, if you're hitting it long and getting on the green, you've got a good chance to really make some hay. So to me, Brooks Koepka is the guy. He didn't go to the Olympics. He'll be sitting back ready to go. And he always comes up biggest and plays his best in the best fields against the best players. So I do like Brooks to win, although, you kind of have to hold your nose at a number 12-1, although better than a lot of other books that I've seen. But the bottom line is this is a great field. You would like it to be a bit more, but I do think Brooks should be the favorite. And honestly, I think he wins. So there'll be a sprinkle on him. Going through that next group for a second pick, I considered McIlroy at 22. We talked about the Olympic turnaround. Daniel Berger, I know you're going to get to Berger. He's another guy I thought of, but I ended up going with Cantlay. Great ball striker, can definitely hit the ball well, has played up and down at times since he won the Memorial a couple months ago. So to me, after seeing his buddy Xander do what he did at the Olympics, I think he'll be ready to go. Do like the number at 25-1. And then as far as a long shot goes, and I sort of mentioned that, this is usually, the big game hunters seemingly winning this tournament. But I couldn't help but look at Max Houma, who's at 99-1. Houma's had a real strong season. He won at the Riv at the Genesis Open at Riviera. And, he's coming off a couple so-so performances, was over at the Open, and now back kind of, I think, where he's most comfortable playing these PGA Tour events. So when I was looking for somebody that, had some value that will put a little sprinkle on at the bottom of the card, Houma is the guy. But honestly, to me, this is about Brooks. We'll add Cantlay to the card, but we're going right to the top, to the big dog, the alpha, to get it done at 12-1.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Berger 22-1, Scotty Scheffler 27-1, and then Billy Horschel as a little bit of a longer shot at 79-1. Berger has played TPC Southwind 4 times. He's won here twice already. He's won 50% of his starts. How many guys have better odds than him this week? I think I have to look it up. I was looking at it a little bit earlier. I think he's like, what's 5 or 6 on the list. So the guy who's won it twice.
Yeah, ahead of Berger, you got, basically Justin Thomas also won it twice. Dustin Johnson, Spieth, Schauffele, Morikawa, and Koepka.
Good group.
Good
group of guys ahead of him for sure. But he's won this thing twice already, or he's won at this course twice already. So Berger at 22-1. Scheffler's just been playing extremely well this year at 27-1. I think he's won. What's he top 10 in his last 3 majors? Like, this guy can come out and play against the big boys. So 27-1 with Scotty Scheffler, and then Billy Horschel plus 79. Don't mind your Houma there at 99-1, but I'm on Horschel at 79-1. The transition to TPC Southwind hasn't really impacted him too much here as far as it being non-WGC or WGC event. He had a run from like 14 to 17 with 4 straight top 10s, top 25 in 2020, top 9 in 2019. So for a guy who's at 79-1, I figured those are pretty good numbers, pretty good results for a guy who you can get at almost 80-1. So I'm going to throw a small little sprinkle on Horschel, but Berger and Scheffler at 22 and 27-1 would be my top 2 guys for this event.
I stared down Scotty Scheffler at 27-1 long and hard and ended up deciding to go with Cantlay, but I'm with you on that. He hits it long. His ball striking has been phenomenal. And, for a guy that has been as competitive as he is and wasn't at the Olympics, which I think most would agree, probably a bit of a help going into this tournament. You look at the other guys and they may have bigger names, but I don't think you can make a case that most of them have been better than Scotty Scheffler over the past few months. So he's certainly a guy that deserves to be in that mix, in that category of the 25 to 30s.
All right, we will get to our NFL futures bets here in just a second. And I guess we'll lead with you because there's a couple of things you want to get to with your guys. But this was great. We started talking about it on the Lock Shop quite some time ago, and Coolbet has made your dream a reality. Hassan, I know you got another Chiefs bet that you like, but let's start with the special promotion that they put out there with you in the Lock Shop. And I love this. I absolutely love this.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes to win big, you have to be bold. And is there anything bolder than considering a perfect season of 17-0 and running through the playoffs? Pat Mahomes was asked this in the offseason after losing the Super Bowl to Tom Brady about the upcoming year and what he'd like to do. And said, well, I'd like to go 20-0. No one's ever done that. And from most athletes, it would be, oh, well, what if this guy's on something? With Mahomes, it's not. He has done things no one's ever seen before. There is a chip on his shoulder and the Chiefs' shoulder, the size of a mountain after what happened in the Super Bowl and them getting just absolutely beat down on the line of scrimmage from start to finish, and Tom Brady and the Bucs having their way. I think there's a real sense of unfinished business. I think there's a sense of revenge. And for a guy like Mahomes that has done so much early in his career, But realistically, I mean, the possibility of beating or catching Brady with Super Bowl championships is, I mean, you'd love to think about it. He's still very young. And if he plays till he's 40 or 45 like Brady is, maybe he has the opportunity to do it. But I think when chasing Brady, I mean, the one thing that Brady wasn't able to do was finish the job on the perfect season. And, the Chiefs have a roster and a lineup that will probably be favorites in just about every game that they play this year. And I certainly like their chances on reversing what happened in the big game last season. So we asked them, can you give me a number on the 20-0 Chiefs season? And damn right, we've got it. If you go into the season bets, you'll see all the over-unders, the win totals. And you go down, there it is, the Hustler Special, the Patrick Mahomes Revenge Tour, Kansas City Chiefs to go 20-0 at plus 6,000. So I think I was the first person to bet it. It's going to be fun with hopefully the Cleveland Browns don't ruin this in week one.
Week one.
But and they do have a couple tough games early. I think they go
They
Cleveland.
do. I just looked at their schedule,
Ravens,
man.
And then the Ravens in week number 2. But anyways, this is it's a huge number. If somehow they kind of get to, 8, 9, 10-0, it'll be a lot more fun to talk about going forward. So anyways, that's a fun one for you. If you want to put a little sprinkle on Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, 60 at plus 6,000. The bet I'll put out for the show today is another Chiefs bet. And I'm looking at the win totals, and obviously I'm very high on them to win a lot of games. Their win total is 12.5, which at first glance looks, pretty high. And then, as you pointed out, it's a 17-game season now. There's an extra game. So to think of the Chiefs going 13-4, I think is absolutely
That's not crazy.
Realistic. And you're getting plus money, plus 120 right now on over 12.5. Now, the division, I think, the Chargers are a threat. I mean, the Chiefs have basically gone 6-0 in the division just about every year. Once in a while, they might lose one game, but they've just owned the AFC West ever since Andy Reid showed up. We talked about it outside the division. They do have some tougher games, but over 12.5, I love. And as I said, I was very surprised to see that number at plus money right now. So you can get the Chiefs at plus 120 for 12.5. But if you really want to step up and be bold, join me on the Patrick Mahomes Revenge Tour at plus 6,000. It's available right now at Cool.
I'm going to get on it because I'll be devastated if it hits and I'm out on it. So I'm going to get on it for something. I'm just looking at their schedule though. Yeah. So they got Browns in week 1 at home. It's in Kansas City. So then on the road in Baltimore. So usually when you're going to make a run like this, there's like 4 or 5 games that'll stand out for you, right? So on the road in Baltimore, week 2, week 3, they're home against the Chargers. You mentioned the Chargers. Week 5, home game against the Bills. Week 7 on the road against the Titans. Week 9, Packers at home. If they can get through that stretch, they end with the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, and Broncos. So there's 4 or 5 games that could be real stress for all of us on the Patrick Mahomes Revenge Tour. But That's how it's going to be. You're going to have to win those games.
No, for sure. And you did a great job of rolling it out. They do have some of their most difficult games earlier on in the season. But man, following their camp, I mean, this team is stacked, loaded. The offensive line has been completely rebuilt, and that was the Achilles heel of the team last year. So we'll see what happens. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll be spending a lot of time talking about Mahomes and the Chiefs, just how much. We'll see if they can get on this roll and keep the 0 in the L column for a few weeks at the start of the season.
We'll be sprinkling in NFL future bets all throughout the month of August here. But the one I wanted to get to first is Derrick Henry to lead the league in rushing at plus 360. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at it. They've got Julio Jones now. So they've got Julio and A.J. Brown. Ryan Tannehill's going to throw more. They're not going to run as much with Derrick Henry. Or are people actually going to have to care about covering 2 receivers in A.J. Brown and Julio, and it opens up the box a little bit more for Derrick Henry? Like, I don't see the Titans getting away from Derrick Henry just because they have Julio Jones. And these numbers last year are ridiculous. Let me lay this out front. I didn't even look at this till after I made the bet, and now I look at it, I'm even more confident. Derrick Henry last year rushed for 2,027 yards. Okay, second was Dalvin Cook, and he was almost 500 yards back of him. He was at 1557. So even if Derrick Henry has 300, 350, 400 fewer yards, there's a good chance he'll still lead the league in rushing with 16 to 1700. Behind Dalvin Cook, next on the list was Jonathan Taylor at 1169. The gap between 1 and 3 was 900 yards last year. So yeah, give me Derrick Henry at plus 360 all day, Huss.
Yeah, listen, it's hard to argue that right now. And to be honest, he's so damn durable as well. I mean, like I got a lot of time for Dalvin Cook. I got a lot of time for Dalvin Cook. He always seems to, miss a few games or has a few issues. And, you can say the same thing. McCaffrey was out. Jonathan Taylor was an interesting pick for a lot of people. Now Wentz is out. Quentin Wilson might not be there.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. The one guy that I think could be in the mix is Nick Chubb. He gets some monster games. They've got a great offensive line. I think the offense is going to be good. And I think Cleveland will be in a position to run the ball more, being up in games, as opposed to what we normally think of the Browns as being down 3 touchdowns in the second half and getting garbage time fantasy points. So, but yeah, listen, we'll get into this more as we get closer to it. But there's a big reason why Derrick Henry is the favorite right now. And I'm sort of with you. I'm surprised there isn't a little bit of a bigger gap between Henry and the rest of the top RBs in the league.
Yeah, I like the way that value looks right now. So Derrick Henry plus 360 and the Chiefs over 12.5. Lots of CFL discussion. Obviously, we might be tweeting a little bit from our account or our individual accounts as we get a better read on lines and some totals and stuff. But Hush, you got Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up right away. What's coming up today?
Yeah, well, Marshall Ferguson's going to join us for a heck of a lot more CFL talk. So if you want to get ready for CFL season with one of the best minds in the 3-down game, join us in about 10 minutes on YouTube, Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll have the podcast up a little bit later on. Also head to Buffalo and see what's happening with the latest on the Jack Eichel situation. And as you can see, Dusty, just before I go, I'm wearing my beautiful Bacon jersey of the Winnipeg Goldeyes from Bacon Night. With Blue Jays back on Friday, we had our ball team come back. They'll be back out for a few more baseball games, and nothing like the wacky promotions and jerseys of minor league baseball. I knew you're a bacon guy. I thought you'd enjoy this, especially now that you don't eat bread. You got to add more bacon to your diet. Does
it smell like bacon?
Well,
that'd
not right now, but it could. May have to hit Sal's after the Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Excellent. All right, buddy. We'll have a good show today. We'll have Lock Shop again next week, week 2 in the CFL. Some more NFL futures, obviously, as well. Haas, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Right on. And hey, don't get too overly excited when the S cover the number on the weekend broadcasting the game. Good luck with everything, though. Really looking forward to it, buddy.
Yeah, it should be good, man. Thanks a lot.